Hello and welcome to Comedians versus the News. I'm Imanol Husseini.
And I'm Jess Solomon. And this is the show that, I'll say it, does the essential work of making you laugh at headlines from around the world.
Laughter is healing. We're your hosts, a married couple.
Going on 1 year in quarantine, Iman. How do we do it?
Laughter.
A vaccine for these dark times.
A bomb for the impending doom.
On this show, we give it to you straight. Oh yeah, we'll go there and say, laughter is the best medicine.
We're basically doctors. You hear that, Mom and Dad? And here to help us bring it are two hilarious guests. The queen of South African comedy, Her Majesty, Tumi Morake, will be talking to us about a South African minister who showed up to a funeral with a killer outfit.
She was maskless. And from Ireland, she's a stand-up comedian, a writer, a podcast host, and an actor. The quadruple threat, Joanne McNally, is here.
Welcome to our season premiere of Comedians versus the News. As a huge fan of the Irish accent, Irish whiskey, and the cereal Lucky Charms, I am thrilled to welcome you to the show, Joanne. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm great. I'm great.
What's happening in your neck of the woods?
Very little. I've been kind of stalking my neighbours. There's a man I've discovered lives in the garden below who is what I've been describing as pandemically hot. Like, he's not, if you could leave your house, you probably wouldn't look twice at him, but he'll do in an emergency situation. So I've been basically stalking him.
And as huge fans of both Tumi, the comedian, and the luxury luggage brand, we are so happy to welcome you. How have you been, Tumi?
I'm great. I'm going through snow, freezing and paying for it. The snow is gorgeous. I hate how it feels.
Let's get into stories. Tumi, you got a story from South Africa.
Yeah.
So the premier of Mpumalanga, a province in South Africa, showed up to the funeral of the late government minister, Jackson Mthembu, dressed to the nines and not the tens for failing to wear a mask. Tumi, she was so close to get a perfect score. What happened?
So this Mpumalanga premier, her name is Refilwe Mtweni Tsipane, who came to minister in the presidency's funeral, Jackson Mthembu, and she just arrived dressed amazing with no mask. Apparently, and this is her excuse, she couldn't feel that the mask had fallen off. And
okay.
yeah.
Do you believe her? Do you believe that?
I was dumbfounded. I want to know what kind of mask she's wearing. I'd love one of those because I find masks very you're very aware that they're there.
Maybe it's one of those, you know, those underwears that you wear so you know you don't really feel it. It's like you're naked, so it doesn't show on your pants that you're wearing underwear. Seamless. Maybe it's a seamless mask.
Dude. Listen, it's no. The only time I wear underwear that makes me feel like I'm not wearing underwear is when I go commando, which is what she did, okay? And I was just like, this chick just scrambled. But you should have seen her arrive. She arrived like she was at a grand opening of something. She was greeting everyone, hugging everyone. Like, listen, our police minister has said you get arrested on the spot. If you're not wearing a mask, you're going straight to jail. To put you in the back of a van. Let's go. And here's Princess just arriving all regal. And Twitter was torn because people were calling for her to be arrested immediately. But then half of Twitter was going, but she looks so good. Like she was slaying. Can we give her points for slaying?
So wait, not only was she maskless, she was also hugging people.
She was
so
hugging.
No mask, no social distancing.
Yeah, you know what I thought it was? I thought that must be what I'm going to be like when I finally leave the house. Because I have not left since lockdown. Even when there were eased restrictions, I was like, I'm not going anywhere. And I think when I do get out, in my head, I'm just going to hear, I'm coming up.
Right.
I want the world to know. Because I think this was like the first big gathering since lockdown in South Africa. And everyone has been like hyper sober because of the alcohol restrictions.
Speaking of funerals, while parents are trying to hold back their kids from going to parties, kids are holding back their parents from going to funerals in South Africa.
Yes.
Apparently funerals are like the event of a lifetime.
Oh my God. I think a lot of us have been taken out of the wills. A lot of us have been disinherited by our parents because we won't let them go to funerals. I had a 2-hour-long fight with my auntie because she insists on going to a funeral. And she's like, you can't take away the church from me. Now you're taking away the funeral from me. If I like, yes, because they'll be dead. They're dead. They can't come to your funeral. Like, it's a huge thing in our culture that you attend people's funerals. And so that's the big fight right now. Funerals are an event. Our funerals take a week. So this is like a huge social calendar event for our people. It's like a reunion, you know?
Our impression, Iman and I, of the Irish wake is that it's also kind of a party, right?
Yeah, it is a bit of a party. Now, it depends, like, on who's died, obviously. Do you know what I mean? Like, if it's a very tragic situation, no one's doing Jell-O shots off the top of the coffin. But I think Irish people do death quite well, actually. We don't necessarily do life quite well, but we do death. We know how to enjoy a funeral. Like, we're not as freaked out, but because it's you become desensitized when you're around it.
Yeah.
So for some people, seeing a dead body like that would be really traumatic. They've never seen it before. We've seen more dead than alive. But I remember waking up. But it's funny because the mood kind of changed. Like, people are having drinks and sandwiches and everyone's chatting and everyone goes over and has a look and we talk about him and everyone's in great form, but then when they go to take the coffin away, everyone gets sad again.
Sure.
But I love a good wake, like, because you know that there's going to be loads of drink, loads of fun. They're not sad affairs, really. They probably should be.
Listen, Joanne, I think we need to merge cultures because what you're talking about is so similar to what we do. So I think if any of us have a passing, we should get together. It's going to be a bash.
From New York City, this is the show that takes the headlines on a stroll around Central Park because there's literally nothing else to do. I'm Iman El-Husseini.
And I'm Jess Solomon, and you are listening to Comedians versus the News on the BBC World Service. And now, a look at this week's headlines.
Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny has been sentenced to 2.5 years in prison for the crime of how dare he run against Putin and not die of poisoning.
Former President Trump's second impeachment trial is set to begin next week, and while Republican senators are largely expected to acquit, the trial will interrupt his golf game. So, a consequence.
Queen Elizabeth is hosting newly elected U.S. President Joe Biden and other world leaders in a post-Brexit charm offensive at Buckingham Palace ahead of the G7 summit. Hey, we should definitely let the palace know we've renewed for a second season so we could get an invitation.
I think we should stop harassing them.
And wait, Jess, what is charm offensive?
Well, Iman, it sounds harmless, but a charm offensive is actually an old British military tactic where one attempts to win over political figures by serving them extra fluffy crumpets. Joe, don't eat that.
In animal news, farmers in Kenya are cashing in on camel milk, which has been hailed for its low fat content and supposed medicinal value. It also gives you very sexy humps.
Google will spend $3.8 million to settle allegations that it underpaid women and unfairly passed them over for job openings. The company is already making positive change by hiring an all-female legal team for the case. According to a spokesperson, they were cheaper.
It's a steal.
So, Joanne, Ireland's health minister is getting some heat for responding to a message about rising COVID cases with an emoji.
Yes.
What is going on?
So in Ireland, we're having great crack with this at the moment. So our health minister is called Stephen Donnelly. And our chief medical officer is called Dr. Tony Holohan. So he's our Anthony Fauci guy. And Ireland loves Dr. Tony. He's very influential in Ireland. I'm surprised he's not over in Dubai with the rest of the influencers. He is super duper well loved in Ireland, right? So he's the chair of our National Public Health Emergency Team, which is NFET, or NIFET, NFET, whatever. So October last year, Donnelly got a message from O'Houlihan because Stephen Donnelly had just been on a radio show saying things were looking really positive in Ireland and the R rate was dropping and trying to keep people upbeat. But Dr. Tony Holohan, who only believes in fact and isn't, he's not there, he's not a cheerleader. So he was messaging Stephen Donnelly saying, please stop telling people that the R rate is dropping. The R rate is actually rising. We're in a very serious crisis. People are dying, like giving him all this bad information. And it was somehow leaked, the next leak, that Stephen Donnelly replied to all of this with the thumbs up emoji, right? Now, this has led to all sorts of debate about what his motivations were, because the thumbs up emoji to me is like, it's a bit dismissive, it's a bit rude.
Yeah.
So now Stephen Donnelly has come back out saying, oh, it was just a quick thank you and that's all it meant. But we were like, you could have sent a hospital emoji. You could have said, thanks, or like you could have sent a shocked emoji. Anyway, now every single time Stephen Donnelly does a tweet, the entire country is sending a thumbs up back to him. So the poor man is being relentlessly heckled by his own thumb.
I've sent him a couple of monkey ones. I'd have a monkey with the hands over the mouth.
Yeah.
I would send the one with the hands on the head.
I love the monkey
The
ones.
shocked one with the big eyes and the blushy
Blushy
cheeks.
emoji, yeah.
I would,
Yeah.
change it up a little bit.
So many more.
Be like that.
Yeah. So much has happened since season 1 in COVID news.
We've come so far from those first few months when we were washing our groceries but not wearing masks because the president didn't want to worry us by saying, by the way, it's airborne.
Oh, so thoughtful.
So in South Africa, we're always lamenting how corrupt our politicians are. Our first vaccines arrived on Monday and they arrived from India. So that's been fun. The arrival was boring. I was hoping for like a big Bollywood arrival with like music and vaccine. Didn't happen. Because I'm a huge Bollywood fan. Trust me, if there's no music and dancing, what's the point? So the president was there.
What's the point of vaccinating a country if it doesn't arrive with a Bollywood
The
group?
arrival should be fun.
Come on, India, include a Bollywood rollout with your vaccine delivery.
Like make it fun, because the president came there to make sure he sees it arrive himself. I'm like, how corrupt are your officials that you have to personally be at the airport to watch the thing arrive and make sure no one nicks it? So they're starting the rollout soon, and it's very exciting. So. Yeah, but we're thrilled. This new variant, I think, has scared people. So I'm glad this thing's coming out.
Joanne, where's Ireland in the line?
So it's very confusing, actually. And to be fair to Ireland, we are great at many things. Like, as we established, death, we're great at dying. But logistics wouldn't really be our strong point. There was a case not that long ago where we built a tunnel, which was very expensive to do, to get trucks to the airport from the port ferry, like so that they weren't taking up the main roads. And they built it cost billions. And when it was finished building, they cut it open with the ribbon, and then it turned out none of the trucks could fit. It was too small. Honestly, right? So that's what we're dealing with, okay? And I mean, because we're quite behind in our vaccinations, right? We're kind of slow, and people keep leaving it out of the fridge, and there was 22 vials, right? We're never going to make it into Club Vax. 22. We're going to need fake ID like I did when I was a kid to get into clubs. 22 vials in a nursing home had to be thrown away because they'd been left out of the fridge. And I was like, I just hope they threw them down a sink in private and not in front of those poor old people watching those things being poured away. Anyway, so the European Centre for Disease Control, the ECDC, has credited Ireland with administering twice as many COVID vaccines as it actually has. So, according to the ECDC's vaccine tracker, Ireland leads the way in the EU for vaccine distribution, with over 10% of the population covered. And everyone in Ireland was like, what? Clearly. There's been some gross administrative error, which means Ireland is now winning in Europe with the vaccines. But now, of course, the truth has been revealed. And like I say, we're quite slow. It's not great. But look, we'll get there eventually,
From New York City, this is the podcast that takes the headlines to a local deli to get yelled at by the guy behind the counter for an authentic New York experience. I am Imanol Husseini.
And I'm Jess Solomon, and you are listening to Comedians versus the News on the BBC World Service.
So, nature's vitamins and my personal favorite ingredients, garlic and ginger. And I mean the spice, not the wife.
I have red hair. I have red hair for people that can't
Tumi,
see me.
tell us, why is there a sudden increase in price? What happened? Did some investors get a hot tip on Reddit to buy stock? What's the story?
It's insane. Like everyone's decided that they're gonna boost their immunity, and so suddenly you were paying like 70 rand for a kilogram of garlic. Now it's 400 rand. Same things happened to ginger, and everyone was like, "Whoa, hold on now." So the National Consumer Commission is investigating a few big shops, like these huge stores, major retailers that are doing well. They're accused of price gouging. My big issue with this is this was happening at a time when there were still alcohol restrictions. So obviously you were paying ridiculous amounts for a pint of beer because you were getting it on the black market, and so that kind of inner conflict is unfair. Where now I must decide what to do with my last 1,000 rand. Am I going to spend it on my immunity or on my alcohol? So I just thought it was a very insensitive thing for them to do, and I hope they get fined.
Has alcohol been banned in Ireland during COVID at all? And what would happen if that were the case?
Well, I just don't think they'd get away with. I really don't think they'd get away with it. I think, like, we're not the French. We're not ones to take to the street, really. Now, but although we have been marching a lot recently, we had a couple of referendums. We had the same-sex marriage referendum. We had an abortion referendum.
Nice.
I'd say the other thing that would get us out now would be the booze. But what they are trying to do is limit the off-license opening hours and stuff. But sure, that doesn't work, because do you know what they've done in Ireland to make us drink less? They've put little gates on the to get into the alcohol part of the shops. Like a child could push through them. They're just these kind of flappy doors.
Wow.
As if you're going to be like, I was dying for a bottle of Merlot. Oh no, do you know what? I won't.
Oh my God. I love the idea of Ireland banning alcohol and everybody, instead of taking to the streets, just sends the thumb emoji.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know how many Irish pubs there are in South Africa? And
I can only... Go on, how many would you say,
lots.
roughly?
If you go to
Really?
yes, and every single town has an Irish pub.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah, I know.
Everywhere.
What
every
a
city I've
legacy.
ever been.
It's a beautiful legacy. Oh my God,
I love it.
The first time
I'm
I
a
got
huge
drunk.
fan.
First time I ever got drunk was in an Irish pub.
First time I got drunk was in a field, so you're doing better than me.
Joanne, with everything going on in the world, it seems unlikely to hear anyone say, I just don't care about politics. But it seems like you were one of those people, Joanne, until it was Brexited out of you.
Yeah.
Tell
I
us
would-
about your journey, and are you now running for office?
People have run for less, I'm sure. Yeah, so I was foolish enough to think. Obviously, there's a lot of talk about Brexit. Brexit is where the UK voted to leave the EU, and it was whether it was going to be a hard deal or a soft deal. And I was just trying to stay out of the whole thing, because I naively was like, do you know what, Brexit won't affect me, even though I'm an Irish person living in the UK, but it's not going to affect me because Ireland and the UK has a special kind of agreement where we can just kind of snake around each other's countries and no one needs a visa. I assume it's because they feel guilty over the colonising, so it's grand. I didn't really notice anything about it. I was back in lockdown in my mother's house for about 4 or 5 months, and I love sparkly water. So I am hooked to my soda stream, and I needed a new gas canister. And I went to get a new gas canister to get my sparkly water back. And she was like, we can't get gas canisters in Ireland anymore. And I said, why? And she goes, Brexit. Went home, started
Radicalized.
trolling Nigel Farage straight away. I'm now heavily politicalised. The problem with the Brexit is it's actually going to probably affect Ireland more than it's going to affect the UK economically, because all our goods come through the UK. So it wasn't our vote. We're still in Europe, but now we have to pay all the tariffs that we didn't have to pay before. We're very annoyed about it. And Amazon, we're being recommended now to actually buy from Amazon Germany instead of Amazon UK, because it's actually not worth the hassle. So now I'm going to have to learn German so I can read all my self-help books.
Okay, you know what that means.
The Biden administration rescinded the Muslim ban, and I'm no longer getting deported.
Well, that's true. And congratulations, Iman. That siren means it's time for our game segment. Winner takes nothing.
Nothing but the satisfaction of knocking it out of the park. That's not nothing. We have no real prizes.
We have no real prizes.
To me. Joanne, are you game?
Yeah.
To
Bring it.
play
Yeah.
the games. Okay.
Ready
Let's
to
go.
rumble.
All right. So the first game, complete the headline.
In this game, you have to guess the missing word in a recent headline that's covered up by our puppy, Esther Honey Spark.
Fans of the show will know that she's our canine correspondent.
She's a puppy we adopted before the pandemic, so she was planned. Esther Honey, if you're listening, you're not a pandemic puppy, baby.
That's right. We had you on purpose, and I'm still trying to lose the puppy weight.
Okay, question number 1. Scientists have taught to send emails, and it could warn us about climate change.
Spinach. Sorry. It's spinach, isn't it?
Okay, spinach. Interesting guess. To me,
Clouds.
Clouds.
the cloud makes sense, actually.
It makes sense because iCloud.
Everything is in the cloud.
Yes, which is the wrong answer.
The correct
unfortunately.
answer, as far as the headline story goes, is spinach. Scientists at MIT have used...
What?
Yes, exactly.
I know.
Exactly.
I know.
That's
and
why I remember the answer, because I was like, that is so bonkers.
Scientists at MIT used nanotechnology to install infrared sensors in spinach plants capable of sending emails.
This can't be okay because now vegans are gonna have to recalibrate if now spinach can be, because you know some people send aggro emails. So once there's a personality in there, I don't know.
I know. The
feelings.
guilt of eating spinach now when we know how intelligent it is. But I thought, is there not loads of controversy around avocados now as well? That they've got this huge carbon footprint, like they're just flying them individually on planes in seats.
Is that why they're so expensive?
That's why they're so expensive.
The
Them and
avocados are
blueberries.
demanding first-class tickets. So now they're becoming like major divas. Avocado.
They are major divas. They
Yeah.
last like one day. If you don't get it at the
Exactly.
right moment,
They're
it's
like, I can't handle this temperature in your house. It is gross. It's not good for my complexion. Get me out of here. I'm going to rot right now. Game 2 is Who Said That?
In this game, you have to guess who said that. Here's the quote. Loony lies and conspiracy theories are cancer for the Republican Party and our country.
Bernie.
Bernie. He
Okay,
doesn't need,
Joanne
we don't even
says
need
Bernie.
to. We don't even. He doesn't even need a last name. Everybody knows who Bernie is. He's like
Yeah, he's like-
Madonna.
he's like
Madonna of
Madonna.
politics.
Yeah.
Bernie. Okay, Joanne with Bernie.
Iconic.
Toomey, what are you thinking?
Someone from Looney Tunes.
Madonna.
Hey, I'm a huge Madonna fan. But that was
No,
funny.
she has over the years. Okay, well, the answer is Mitch McConnell. Republican Senator Mitch McConnell said this about the conspiratorial views of QAnon sympathizing Republican politician Marjorie Taylor Greene. She fired back on Twitter saying the real cancer on the party was weak Republicans who only know how to lose gracefully. She's right about one thing. If there's one word I would use to describe Mitch McConnell, it's graceful.
He's
Absolutely.
a swan.
And now it's time for our last segment, Ask CVTN, Comedians versus the News. It's a safe space for world leaders seeking confidential, no-nonsense advice.
We're gay, but we give it to them straight.
Okay, we are just going to go through our mailbag here, and
What do we have? What do we have?
okay, I have something. I have a piece of mail. Dear CVTN, I was recently detained by my country's military in a coup. It's disappointing and frankly unexpected. Did I misread the signs? Have I been naive? It felt like we were making some real progress, towards a semblance of democracy. Sure, there was a period of 21 years during which they put me under house arrest for 15, but that's in the past. Since then, we've been working together and focusing on unity. I even stood by them when they were accused of repeated human rights violations and told their political rivals, you don't know them like I do. I've tried to be a good partner, but should a relationship be this much work? As I sit here in detention, I wonder, have I compromised too much? How do I get them to release me so that I can get back to fighting myself once more? Signed, Betrayed in Yangon.
Yeah, I think this might be the leader of Myanmar.
Iman, it's anonymous.
Right. Okay. Well, I'd say this is an important lesson if she wants to hear my advice. If they want to hear my advice.
They're writing for advice.
This is an important lesson in the consequences of not being true to yourself.
Tough love. Okay. First, let me say, we've all been there.
Have we?
When I started dating Iman, I pretended to like spicy food. Did you know eyebrows can sweat?
Okay, wait. There is a difference between trying things outside your comfort zone and turning a blind eye to crimes.
Yeah, that is a good boundary.
To me, Joanne.
Joanne, what do you?
What advice do you have?
would you have for this anonymous
World leader?
It's a time for self-reflection. I think that's what I'm getting from this. I would suggest she checks her horoscopes and maybe gets a salt light. I've heard salt lamps can be very soothing, and I would recommend heavy use of crystals.
Yeah. I think for me, I'm going to say you're dealing with a younger man. So, they're always a little problematic in any relationship. And I think you need to really work on the status of your relationship. This on again, off again thing is not going to work. And you teach people how to treat you. You let them get away with so much, and now look at you back under house arrest. Why? Because you didn't make it okay. So in the same way, you need to go and have an open-hearted conversation with this person and remind them that, especially with the age you're at, there isn't a lot of time for this back and forth thing. Let's get this democracy thing going before you're gone.
That's advice I need to take.
Thank you, Tumi and Joanne, for joining us for our season premiere. Let our listeners know where they can find you. It's on social media or your home address.
I'm on Twitter, Tumi_Morake, Instagram, Tumi_Morake, Tumi Morake on Facebook, and I'm on Netflix. I do a couple of things. Just look for Tumi Morake. Search it. You'll find something fun.
And Joanne, where can people find you?
So I'm Joanne McNally Comedy on Instagram, and like that, if you Google me, you'll see me floating around. I also have a podcast called Let's Solve Nothing.
We want to hear from you, our listeners, our fans, and even the reply guys.
If you're tuning in and have a funny joke about world events, we want to hear it. Get in touch via social media using the hashtag Comedians versus the News. That's Comedians vs. the News, or tweet at us at BBC World Service. If your joke makes the cut, we'll put it on air.
Everyone thinks they're a comedian now, and this is your chance to prove it.
Look at this. I can't believe we've already heard from some of our listeners.
It's Buckingham Palace.
What?
They wrote to say, we regret to inform you that we will not be extending an invitation to the Charm Offensive hosted by Her Royal Highness. It is for world leaders and not podcast hosts. Kindly stop contacting us.
Ouch. But, fair.
Rate, review, subscribe.
We appreciate it, and the algorithm we are beholden to requires it.
Give us all the stars.
Tell your friends to listen, rate, review, and subscribe.
Tell the world. Until
Till
next week,
das vidania.
You've been listening to Comedians versus the News from the BBC World Service, presented by me, Iman El-Husseini.
And me, Jess Solomon. The show is written by us with additional material from George Siveris. The producers are Olivia Skinner and Mugabe Turia.
The show is recorded in New York by Damon Whitmore and in London by Bob Nettles. The production assistant is Nancy Benny with digital support from Will Swagart.
BBC World Service podcast team are John Manel and Al Riddell. The series editor is Rebecca Stratford, and the commissioning editor for the BBC World Service is Simon Pitts.